Hello, pretty people.
And ugly people.
Yeah,
all people.
Everybody's welcome here.
Welcome to Trauma and Triggers. I'm Sabrina.
And I'm Audrey.
And this...
We're doing a fun new thing today.
Yeah.
We're trying long distance podcasting, which is fun. And probably will be better than our normal podcasting.
Yeah, it's definitely a little different. I've already talked over you 100 times, and I'm just trying to get better about that.
I mean, we do that on our regular podcast anyways. I don't feel like it matters that much. It's fine.
You right.
We can edit out what we need to edit out.
It's so weird. I don't know. This feels like a big step. Can you believe we're coming up on 30 episodes right now?
Yeah. It's like we've been doing it.
Yeah. This episode, I think, will be our 32nd episode or our 33rd episode.
Damn.
When it comes out. So I didn't think it would last this long, to be honest.
We got into this, we were like, it's gonna be a fun little thing, and then we just can't stop now. We're too far into it.
Yeah, I think for like the first couple of months, every time we recorded, I was like, if you don't want to, that's fine.
Yeah, no, I remember, like, you still do that sometimes. You're still just like, I want this to be a fun thing, and if you don't like it, we don't have to keep doing it. And like, girlfriend.
Yeah, I'm always ready for you to be like, we're done. And I'm like, totally get it. No problems. I'll be over here crying. You let me know if you ever want me back in your life.
It's also, these headphones are really weird because I'm used to hearing myself in the headphones and I can't hear myself.
Yeah, I agree. It's a whole... I'm also recording in my old house, in my old bedroom, because where I live, I have 4 dogs and really crappy internet. So it's weird to... It's just a lot of strange things are happening today. But I'm also really excited. I feel like we're really real podcasters now. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a big step. Not many people would put the effort into like do long distance podcasting.
I agree.
Most people are just like, well, this is the end. Goodbye.
Yeah. I'm hoping from this episode onward, there's just going to be like heightened quality and people will actually want to listen more.
Yeah. No, I definitely feel like over the last month or so, because we haven't been doing as much recording. Like I've been really busy and then the move and everything. So we haven't done a lot of recording. But I do feel like we've gotten, at least on my side, I feel like I've gotten more feedback from people. Like I've had some friends reach out and like talk to me about really liking the podcast and listening to it. And then we did get an Instagram not comment, but like somebody DM'd us and like talked about how they really liked the demisexual episode. So that was really fun.
I've also really enjoyed seeing like we're getting more popular in other countries. And I'm like, that's really interesting.
I think Canada and Europe is like the UK or something has gotten up to like 5%.
We're famous.
We're doing amazing. We're doing so good.
This topic we're talking about today has been like on the back burner, I feel like, for a long time. I remember writing down this topic idea in the very start of like when we were planning this podcast. Yeah. Like one of our very first meetings about it.
Yeah, I think I was really into the topic because it was so popular at the time. It was like people were talking about it.
Yeah.
And so I was like, yeah, let's do this. But also it's a very sad topic and there's so much to it that I was like, I don't know. We'll do it eventually. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
But we've been a little too happy on here. So we had to take a break and be depressed.
Yeah. Always take a break for depression.
We are well-rounded here. Well, that's our little a little introduction. Is there anything else you wanted to say?
No, I just love you, and I'm glad we're doing this.
I love you too. Just so the viewers aren't confused, I also love you.
uh, it would be
Um,
funnier if you said, "That's nice."
no, for those of you who are as obsessed with Love Island as I am, there's a character, not a character, he's a real person. It's his reality TV show, but that's besides the point. There's this one guy who can't say love. So his partner, he's like talking to his partner, and he's like, I L word this. Like a 5-year-old boy.
A question for the non-Love Island aware
Yeah.
people. Does he have a speech impediment or he has
No, he's
emotional
just a
maturity
bitch.
issues?
He's just
Okay.
a bitch.
Just
That's
a
all.
little bitch. Okay, awesome. I love when you get obsessed with these little, like, I guess it's not little. Everybody knows Love Island besides me,
Yeah.
but you'll just get obsessed with something and you'll bring it up no matter what the context is.
Yeah. I will. I sure will. To be fair, that particular thing has become kind of like an inside joke with me and my boyfriend, where we're just like kind of
Mhm.
fuck around, and like one of us will say I love you and the other one will be like I L word you too, just to fuck with each other. It's
That's so rude.
kind of hilarious.
It is funny.
Are we ready to get into it?
I
You
think we
ready?
are. You're
Yeah,
starting
I
us
keep
off.
tracking. Sorry, guys. To start off, what are family influencers? Also, that's what we're talking about today. I don't feel like we set our topic yet.
You
We're
know,
talking about family vloggers and family influencers. To me, like I think we kind of wanted to separate this into like two different sections because
mhm,
when we think of family influencers, I feel like people usually think about like vloggers just cuz
right.
that's what's popular now, but family TV is still a thing. And
For sure.
it's got the same vibe. It's still doing the same thing. So we're going to talk about both today. What are like family TV influencer, what are they doing out here? So family TV stars are usually reality TV shows that have a focus on the inner workings of a family, including family dynamics, parenting styles, and personal details of children and parents. Family vloggers are kind of doing the same thing, but they're not exactly the same. They're different, but similar. The vloggers are a subgenre of YouTube vloggers that like kind of bring viewers into the family and follow
Mhm.
the lives of like children and experiences within the home. I think the family vloggers take it a step further by like the internet just has access to their lives. Like it's not just
Mhm.
a like, you know, heavily edited reality TV show where like what they want to be shown is what's shown. Like these are just people in their homes with no like maybe there's a camera person, but a lot of times it's just them with a phone and
Yep.
a tripod. Um which I think really shows a lot more than they do on TV. So you definitely get like more of a look into how people behave in their family unit.
Yeah, it is. It's interesting in general how YouTube and the internet has created celebrities by just people who are willing to give up their privacy for views. And if you're an adult and you want to do that, that's fine.
Children can't consent to this.
Yeah, they don't even sometimes adults don't even fully understand the burden of like fame and not having privacy anymore. So coercing children into that, I think there's a huge issue with that. But the idea of like family influencers, I tried to find stuff that was like pre-TV and pre-YouTube era, and I couldn't find a lot of stuff. I feel like you could argue in a lot of ways the royal family is a family influencer.
I don't think that's what we mean.
You could argue it, but I decided to not argue it today.
Okay, I'm glad.
Yeah, but I think that'll be our poll on Spotify is the royal family family influencers. I'll start with family vlogging first for some reason. That's how I chose to write it. Um, it first became popular in 2008, which is crazy to think about how long ago 2008 was when it feels like, mama, that was yesterday. I'm so
Yeah.
confused. Most people agree that the first family to do this was the Carl family with their channel Shaytards.
Starting out strong.
I don't know if that is a reference to a slur or if it's something else. I didn't dig that deep into it.
It
Moving on.
sounds like it is. That's just me though.
Yeah. So Shay Carl, his wife Colette, and Colette Crofts, and their 6 children would make daily videos of their lives. Their fame skyrocketed into other success. They had podcasts, brand deals. They interviewed Terry Crews, Matt Damon. They were really popular in the YouTube genre for a really long time. However, in 2017, news broke that Shay was allegedly messaging sex workers. Specifically, he was messaging a sex worker through Twitter, just saying naughty things. And that year, he announced that he would be taking a year off to go to rehab for alcoholism. He returned to making videos in 2018, where he began to be open about addiction and working on his relationship with his wife and being a good father. I kind of just took a little peek at their channel, and they don't really post regularly anymore. They kind of post once every couple months, and their last video was about 11 months ago. I think this first example of family vlogging is not going to be as gnarly as other examples that we get into, but there still is some like dysfunction here, and there might be more stuff we just don't know about.
I feel like this is like oddly enough, like obviously there's an added component of like everything's out there for people to see. But like the problems that these people are having are like normal people problems. They're like my parents are getting divorced problems. You know what I mean? Whereas like some of the other ones are like, oh, okay.
But something that is interesting, I think, in a lot of these family vloggers is they often don't. They're like, oh, we're just a real family. We're just sitting here being real with you. But they aren't really real. They still present often a very polished front. So I think, this example, which was more about just like the start of family vlogging, is just it's interesting that he kept his alcoholism and his addiction and his issues secret and locked up and didn't talk about it while presenting this front of being a family man and not having any big issues. But moving on. So I think our idea of family influencers starts earlier than this during the reality TV boom of the early 2000s. The first reality TV shows that featured families was mainly just famous families like the Osbournes, the Kardashians, and the Hiltons. But once you move to the 2010s, it's more of like odd families like Jon and Kate plus 8, 19 Kids and Counting, Sister Wives, and Duck Dynasty.
Yeah. We're entering our like who's out here era. Like what are people really doing era?
Yeah. One show that I think is interesting that isn't necessarily family influencer, but does really explore family dynamics is Wife Swap. Have you ever seen this show?
I have, and it is really funny. It's honestly so hilarious. There's a few like on there that I've heard about that are like really interesting just because of how much they don't get along.
Yeah,
It's like bad.
uh, it's 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 crazy. If you ever just want to like think about life and the human beings around you, sit down with some alcohol or weed or whatever substance and watch fucking Wife Swap.
Yeah, I definitely like I didn't get super into the like 2010s like family influencers type thing, but like I personally think that looking at the families of like real people who aren't famous is way more interesting than watching the Kardashians. Like I could give a fuck what Kardashians are doing. I don't care.
Yeah.
Like I don't think any of it's really like it's real.
There definitely is, like, with the famous families, the families who are already famous and do the reality TV shows, there's an element of, like, stuff is more produced and, like,
Yeah,
things just seem more fake.
it's staged
Yeah, and I'm sure there's a level of staging in the other shows we mentioned, but
for
there
sure.
but there is this element of, like, these people don't know how crazy they are. You know? They don't realize the
Yeah.
what that they are very it's just it's so interesting in the 2010s, there was just like, "Let's just follow around weird ass people. Let's just do that."
You deserve a TV show. What's going on with you? And it's
Yeah.
like I find it very interesting that they like took on like the major families, like the big like we have, you know, 8, 20 kids. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like I find that so fascinating.
Yeah, it was really interesting, like, all of a sudden this fascination with big ass family.
It cuz it's just like first of all, there's so many dynamics to have here cuz there's
Mhm.
so many children. Um and like it does explore a lot of that. I you know, that could not be me. Couldn't be me.
You couldn't have 8 children.
I could not have 8 or more children. No, I don't think I can have one.
Relatable.
I don't I'm not giving birth to a single child, nonetheless 20. I
I
think at the end of the show, hadn't she had like 21 kids?
I think so. I think they finally were like,
She
I
almost died with the last one. That's fucking why.
yeah, I remember because my mom, and I think my dad too, but mostly my mom, was very interested in the 19 Kids and Counting and the, Jon and Kate. So I remember watching this show when it was on, and I have this memory of, like, a doctor sitting down Mrs. Duggar and being like, "Mama, you gotta
You have to
stop.
stop.
Your
You have to
health."
stop.
And I remember Jim Duggar swooping in like he was a hero, being like, "Yeah, we gotta stop having kids." It's like, obviously, this poor
You're the
woman.
problem here, bud.
Yeah.
You're the problem.
Please let her have some birth control.
Like, Jesus. And I think that's like one of the big things that I feel like I really don't appreciate about these when they're like so conservative based and like religion based is it like glorifies this like massive family, which in general I feel like families that are that large are putting a lot of children like in positions to not be children anymore. Like the oldest child there is not a child. She's not a child.
Yeah.
She's an adult taking care of your children because you have had too many of them.
Yeah.
And it's also like there's a big thing about just putting a child in like a baby's life, whether they're even coming to fruition yet, ahead of your own health.
Yeah.
Why are we doing this?
It's hard to wrap my head around. I mean, I was homeschooled and I grew up around a lot of families that had 6, 7, 8. Um, I think the largest family was like 10 kids in the family. And often the oldest daughters, mostly the daughters, would be in charge of childcare of the younger children. And I think it robs them of childhood, because I'm not talking about like they're 17, 18, and they help out every now and again. I'm talking about, especially in the homeschool world, they were making school plans, making meals for everybody, helping out with chores to like a crazy extent. Obviously, if you're in a family unit, you should learn to help out, but there's like levels there.
Yeah. Yeah. You shouldn't have to be a parent when you're, 14, 15 years old.
Yeah. And with the Duggar family in particular, you know, the oldest son, Josh Duggar, essentially had a victim pool of all his siblings
Yeah.
because, and there's so many kids and just a couple of adults around, they can't keep an eye out for that and protect against that.
Not that they really did when they had the chance, but that's
Right.
besides the point.
Yeah. Well, we're already starting off.
Doing good so
We're
far.
doing good. Um, so when Audrey and I talked about the structure of this episode, we kind of wanted to avail you to the
Hey,
spectrum of this
hey, the
abuse.
spectrum was mostly your idea. I don't want to take credit for your genius.
Don't.
You got this.
I can't be alone in this. So we wanted to present to you some cases, some families that are on different levels. But I do want to mention that, like, when we're talking about these different levels, I think some of this stuff is worse than we know. We just don't have all the information yet. Um, and maybe that information will never come out. So it's also like abuse is relative. And even though not all these cases are like physical abuse, neglect and emotional and verbal abuse does have a very negative and lasting impact. So I just want to be clear about that. Okay.
Yeah, we are not trying to diminish anybody's experiences. Um it's just like, when you think on the spectrum of like some like weird parenting or like excessive spanking
Hmm.
versus like being tied to a pole in somebody's basement, like there is a spectrum. There's a
Yeah,
little bit of a spectrum.
there's some
Um
differences there.
and I do like I don't you guys can just have an opinion about that. Whatever opinion you have is valid. Go for it.
Yeah.
But this is just how we felt it was best to set it up to give you examples.
Yeah. So I'll be taking some of the lighter quote examples. Have you ever heard of the Ace family before?
No.
Okay. So the Ace family began vlogging in 2016. Initially, the channel just featured Austin McBroom and Catherine Paez. I also want to let everybody know that if any of these children are still minors, I've decided to not say their names. Just,
Yeah, I also have not said any children's names. I've only been using like adults.
yeah.
Even if the kids are not minors anymore, I'm still just not going to use their name.
All right. So, the Ace family. They began vlogging in 2016, and initially the channel just featured Austin McBroom and Catherine Paez. Uh, Later, she does take on the name McBroom and their one daughter. They go on to have two more children. There had been some light scandals, the usual cheating allegations, questioning parenting practices, or questionable parenting practices. Some of the highlights of this are there was a video where Austin spanked his daughter in a very weird manner. Some said sexual manner. Um, Others were saying too aggressive, but nobody liked the spanking video of the child.
Also, I feel like it's okay to say that there shouldn't be any spanking videos of childs. I'm not a big spanking fan in general as a parenting practice,
Yeah,
but definitely don't record it and put it on the internet. That's
yeah.
weird. That's very weird.
It is strange, especially. when we talk about some context later about who is watching these videos of these children.
Yeah.
Um, so another strange thing that Austin decided to do is take a young child to a quote adult themed store. I think it was a Spencer's. Took her to the back of the store and gave the child a dick shaped sucker, like a lollipop, you know.
Gross.
Um,
Gross.
the child was not his child. It was like a family, like a niece or some sort of situation like that. I saw different articles said different things. So, some sort of familial relation. So, both of these are like definitely inappropriate and not good, but it might not be terrible. To me, I'm like, he's sexually abusing people and
Absolutely.
children. If
Yeah.
you think it's
That man's a
inappropriate
pedophile.
to give a child a dick shaped lollipop and put that online, something is not.
No, he's the weird
Something's
uncle
not.
everybody tells the family to stay away from. That's who he is.
Uh,
Absolutely.
yeah. Uh, and this next part is not abusing children, but there is a correlation of like criminal activity. People who repeatedly do criminal behavior will often abuse the children in their lives. Um, so both of the parents, Catherine and Austin, have been in legal trouble for shady business dealings. Um, Catherine's beauty brand has basically, like, the FDIC was like, you can't do this anymore because she was making false claims. The ingredients were rancid and bad. They literally would like just lie to their audience, be like, if you pay us $10 a month, we'll give you the keys to success. We'll help you become famous YouTubers. And then never
Now,
did anything. They just got $10 a month from children who got their parents' credit cards. And also, Austin has had a rape accusation. His claim is that the woman who accused him was just seeking money and attention. As far as I know, the rape accusation was in 2019 and nothing has come of it legally. Obviously, this doesn't mean anything. Personally, I think he probably did do something to this woman. However, there's a small chance he did not do anything.
on the slight chance that he's not a absolutely foul person.
Yeah. So, and this is why, like, when I did these categories, I don't know what the fuck I was thinking. This is not mild. This to me just is like the early stages where we don't know what all this fucker has been up to.
Right. Yeah, and that's the thing about doing this kind of research is that I feel like lot was going on behind the scenes that we didn't see. If
Yeah,
what you're seeing on TV or on somebody's show is already giving you like warning signs, what's going on behind is even worse. So it's
absolutely.
like I feel like some of this stuff it just hasn't been investigated enough or haven't been like people just didn't
Yeah.
have any actions towards them. Um so it's like I don't know. I don't none of it feels good.
Yeah. And when you're talking about child abuse, all types of child abuse, but specifically sexual child abuse, it can take victims years to disclose that abuse to anybody.
Yeah.
Um Either because the person is still in their life, they don't understand what happened, or people are coercing them into not speaking out about it. There's so many different reasons. So we might not hear the whole story of all this ever, or years down the line. So that's one wonderful example. Moving on to TV world. Jon and Kate plus 8. I feel like everybody knows this show, but just in case you don't, There were 2 people, one named John, no H, by the way. Always weird when I see a John with no H.
Yeah,
Um,
agreed.
and Kate, and they had 8 children. Um, the first one was twins, and then they had sextuplets. I think she was like one of the first like documented cases in America of sextuplets or something like that. I don't know.
Is that 6?
Yeah, sex.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah,
I think I watched this show and I did not clock that they were like all that like I just thought she had a bunch of kids.
yeah.
I didn't know she had 6 at a time.
Yep. It was it was a lot. I remember like some of my pregnancy anxiety comes from that show, seeing her belly swollen and enlarged. Like she's not super tall. I think she's
No,
relatively
she
short.
she was a small woman.
Yeah, and it looked like a whole other woman. A whole other her was coming out of that belly. She's got 6 babies and 6 placentas in there, okay? Like I'm sorry, Audrey. I'm sorry.
I hate talking about like the actual like birth process. It makes me so uncomfortable. I don't know why.
Yeah.
It always has.
Um
I
I'm
wasn't like traumatized by like a birth video either. Like I don't know why I've always just been very uncomfortable by the thought.
I think pregnancy is really scary, and I think more people should be open about that. But you do have a
Yeah.
level of pregnancy anxiety that I've never seen in a person before.
Like I it starts to make me physically sick. Like it's a fear.
Yeah. Well, moving on from that. So, yeah, they had all these children. They were on TLC just having kids. Well, they had all of them and they were just raising them, doing their best. The couple split up. I didn't write down the year, but eventually they divorce and Kate gets custody of all 8 children. So the
Shocking.
show switches to Kate plus 8. Um, and in 2016, fans began to notice that one of the children, Colin, was no longer featured in the footage or family photos posted on social media. So they were like, hey, Kate, you promised us 8 and there's 7. What the fuck is going on here? In response to the questioning, Kate told People magazine, this is a direct quote from Kate, and this feels odd to me. What she's saying feels odd.
Yeah.
She said, Colin has special needs. There's a fairly fluid diagnosis of what those needs are, but he needs to learn certain strategies to help him deal with things. This has been a struggle we've had for a very long time, and it's one I've dealt with on my own. I've felt very alone in this. By Do you have something you want to say?
You can finish. You can
Okay.
finish.
By the same token, it's not something that has only impacted me or him. Our entire family has been impacted. So she sent him to live in a mental institution. The floor is yours.
So, first of all, saying there's every single sentence needs to be talked about. I feel like I'm about to pick this apart. First of all, saying that there's a fairly fluid diagnosis of what needs are is kind of crazy. Cuz like if you have a child who has special needs, someone can clearly state to you what those needs are and help you find them. Like there are people who do that, especially if you have as much money as this woman had from being on a reality television show. Um just there's that cuz like I understand that like it's a spectrum. If he had autism, which is not what she said special needs, which is like not clear at all.
Yeah, it's very strange that she's claiming he has a fluid diagnosis. Um and that qualifies him to be in a mental institution. It's just like things aren't adding up
Mm-mm.
to me. And
It's also, how old was this child when he went to the mental institution?
I think at the time he was 13 and his dad was able to get him out when he was 15.
That's terrible. That's terrible. Um, I I have no words. Um, I feel like it's all giving very like shamey, like he's in the wrong for doing whatever he's done, but also has no control over what he's doing. I I
And
don't know,
it's also like I just think if I were a mother and I had to send my child to a mental institution, I don't know if I would use words like this. Like, he
yeah,
needs to learn, and this has been very hard for me.
yeah.
Uh, I don't know. But I also like if there's some truth to it, there might be some truth to it. I don't know for sure.
Because
But
like if your child needs to be sent to a mental institution, like that's like do what you have to do. But I also feel like there's a lot of cases where parents take advantage of children by just not giving them the help that they need and just get rid of them because it's too hard. And
yeah,
that's what this is giving.
and it's also concerning to me that, eventually, spoiler alert, Colin and his dad and his sister claim that he never needed to be in the mental institution. Why is a mental institution letting a child in who doesn't need to be there?
Because mommy said so.
That is a little concerning to me,
Yeah.
but
I
I believe it's possible.
yeah, I think that there's this was like I really want to believe that institutions have better rules in place for what a child can be held for, and also enforce like other options,
Hmm.
because a mental institution, a psychiatric hospital is not, um that's a last resort. To be clear, I feel like that is a last resort, or at the very least a short-term thing. That is not something that's intended to be long term for people, especially a child. Um like that's just traumatic. You're just making things worse. Um so yeah.
Yeah. Um, so in 2017, John removed his son from the institution after Colin wrote him letters asking for help. This is what Colin wrote. Dear Dad, I'm not trying to trick you, but I still love you. I told Mom I want to live with you. She said no. And then there's like a chunk of the letter that's redacted. I'm sorry. Take this to court because you're my dad, my savior. So there was a lot of this information comes from like a little sort of like TV expose about Jon and Kate plus 8 and what's going on there. Colin doesn't claim like any specific abuse from his mother. He says in some ways he was a difficult child, but he doesn't believe he belonged in an institution, and he believes his behavior was very similar to his siblings. And his siblings that spoke on the show agree with him that they felt like he was singled out by his mother for some reason. Um, Colin no longer has a relationship with his mother, and some of the kids no longer have a relationship with Jon. Um, John's claim is that their mother has lied and manipulated his children, so they no longer communicate with him. Interestingly enough, another one of the kids, Hannah, has chosen to live with her father, but she does maintain a relationship with her mother.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there's a lot
It's
going on there.
really, I feel like it's very weird when a situation happens where like the children are split up into different homes.
Hmm.
And like are on different sides with the parents. Like that's such a weird situation to be in. Um and it's like hard to kind of figure out like what is happening there,
Right.
because I do feel like in this particular situation, I don't know enough about their family or John, but Kate is giving she shouldn't have custody of his children. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I obviously don't know enough. I could be swayed either way, but there's something very controlling about her. And on the show, I remember her being very controlling, and I'm feeling very like narcissistic mom vibes going on
Mhm.
here. Uh, but yeah, that's John and Kate plus 8. I feel bad for the kids like living a life like that in public view and having a public divorce like that. And, one of the kids being sent to a mental institution with no clear answers as to why he was sent there.
That's
Um,
so crazy. That's the craziest part of all of this to me, cuz I'm not surprised they got divorced at all. I'm not really, given the situation, I'm not really surprised that certain children are taking certain sides. None of this is surprising to me. But sending a child, a 13-year-old, to a mental institution for no particular reason, just because behavior needs to be changed, is terrible.
yeah, it's there's something else here is what I feel like.
And that's with all of them. Like it's like not the full story. And then
Yeah.
I'm like, why haven't people like gone a little bit more into this? Like these children obviously are not doing okay.
Yeah. I don't know. But what's our medium abuse case,
Oh god.
Audrey?
Ready to get into this. So I don't have as much information on the family for the next case. Um just cuz I don't really, it would have taken a lot of work. I didn't really want to do that, but I did want to tell you guys what happened in the case, cuz they were a fairly popular like vlogger, um and you know, I don't think that, to me, these parents deserved to, I don't care what they did. I don't care who they are. They just did a shitty thing to their children. And that's all I'm going to talk about today. This case of family vloggers eventually led to being a court case. And they are, the like YouTube name I think was Family O five, and then eventually like it, like the the father in it, like I don't know if they changed their name or if he just called himself this, um but he was posting as Daddy O five,
Mhm.
so that's fun. um so their whole shtick was they pulled pranks on their children. I think that that was like a big like reason they got so many followers. It was like it was different than some of the other family stuff where they're like sharing family practices and like it's just following the lives of like inside of their home. I think that they were like specifically popular for doing pranks on their children. So as the channel got more popular towards the end of like their vlogging journey, um the pranks became more intense and got like higher reactions and stuff like that. So for example, there was a prank in which Michael Martin, Daddy O five, sprayed disappearing ink on the floor of his son's bedroom before calling him in and scolding him for it. As the son broke down in tears, Martin revealed the joke, telling him it was just a prank. And another one where the parents instructed their son to slap their older daughter in the face. So obviously people weren't, they saw this and were like, "Hey, I don't
Hey.
know anymore." I'm not too sure about this anymore. I think like at the beginning it was like funny, which to me, I don't feel like parents pulling extreme pranks on children is really that funny. Like
Mhm.
every once in a while, like a little spook, or like, my dad used to go around my room and hide random objects in my stuffed animals. Like, that's fine. Whatever. I don't care. If I walk into my room and I see a banana next to my teddy bear, I'll survive. But like, they, like, anything more than that is just like, why are we doing this? Like, this is weird.
Yeah.
So, these parents eventually were charged with child neglect and sentenced to 5 years of probation. They lost custody of two of their children. I'm not sure which two, but my guess would be it's the two that they videotaped slapping, and moved states with the other three children they still have custody with, which is crazy to me. If you lose custody of two children, you should lose custody of all of them. That's not just me, right? Because if you're not qualified to be a parent to specific children, what are we doing? Why are you
Yeah.
qualified to be a parent to anyone else?
Yeah. I totally agree with your logic, but the the goal of, you
I
know,
know the whole like families need to stick together bullshit. I get it. I understand what you're
yeah,
saying. And like I I know that that's how the system works. I know that's how the system works, but it's also just like if you've done something bad enough to get one child taken away from you, you're obviously like not capable of being a parent. You know?
right. It's like obviously you enjoy victimizing children. So why are you allowed access to
To
the
more of them?
yeah, yeah.
That's weird. Cuz it's giving like apparently like the courts are just walking in there and being like, "Well, you just seem to really not like these two, so we'll just give them to somebody else."
Th-
What?
These two, I get it. I would beat them too. That's what the court
What?
said.
What do you mean?
That is so crazy.
But anyways, their YouTube channel was deleted. YouTube was like, "These people can't have a platform anymore. We're taking it away." And then the family is still active on social media and like active on Twitch. I think was the platform they switched to was Twitch. Um, and they still have three kids. So there we go. That's them. That's Family O5 or 3.
What is their do you think their name is Family O3 now on
I no, I don't think so. I don't know
okay.
what they I don't know what they go by. But yeah. So that's the mild one. I don't really know what the neglect charges were for. I don't know if the kids were showing like signs of malnutrition or what. Cuz to me like the videos they were showing was giving like emotional and physical abuse. They only got sentenced with child neglect. So I'm not sure what the reasoning was for that.
Yeah, I don't know either. I'm not very familiar on like, what you have to do to prove child neglect. Is it just malnutrition? Is it like how do you I feel like it would be hard
So
to prove.
some like things in a court that like are obvious signs of neglect are malnutrition, lack of hygiene, um, uh, excessive truancy from school, um, and lack of like medical care. So those are some like obvious factors of
Gotcha.
neglect.
Okay.
Um, so yeah, that's
So
them.
oh god. We're not gonna do a sad topic for a while after this one. I just I'm pissed off. I'm angry. Like
People are so disgusting, and I feel like in all of these situations, we've talked about this before, we talked about in Munchausen's, people are just constantly failing children over and over again. People sit here and they watch something bad happen to kids and don't do jack shit about it. And then like I'm still pissed off about the fact that they still have 3 kids. Why do you have 3 kids?
Yeah.
What is that? Like, "Oh, we'll just see if they do better the second time around?" What? I This shit pisses me off
Yeah,
to
if
no
we
end.
ran the world, if you abused children, you would not be allowed to
You're
be
in jail.
around children anymore. And
You
vasectomy and hysterectomy, you're done.
please.
You're fucking done. Enough is enough. Stop. Stop. And it's crazy. It's just all right. We've been
So,
ramping up to this one.
yeah. So moving on, we have our big one, the one that's very popular right now.
Yeah, the inspiration for
And
this topic.
yeah, we are talking about Passengers 8. And by we I mean me, just me,
I'll
only
be
me.
I'll be chiming in with unhelpful comments.
So I got like really invested in this for a while, and then I kind of stopped paying attention to it. Um, I don't know why. I think I had other things going on, but I this case is disgusting. There's it's so I so a lot of you probably already know some about this case. People who are watching it, if it was popular, it was really like people were talking about it. Um, but I'm gonna give you guys a little history just to catch you up. Um, so Passengers 8 was started by Ruby Frankie and her husband. Um, and it followed those two and their 6 children. They started their platform in like 2015, and the channel gained over 2 million followers. Like, these people were popular. People were watching them. Although criminal charges against Ruby are fairly new, people have suspected her of child abuse long before her actual sentencing, partially due to like her strict parenting practices. Also, for a while their channel was like her and her husband. Um and then at some point, I think in like 2021 or 2020, he kind of split off. Like, I think they got divorced, or like he definitely was like living elsewhere and she had the kids. Her channel just took a turn. It was just not the same as it was before. She kind of like doubled down on the strict parenting practices, and a lot of it just became like her and her partner Jody Hildebrandt talking about like parenting practices and what they believe children should be doing and how they should be behaving, that kind of stuff, rather than just like following the family and it just being like a family blogger, you know?
Mhm.
In many videos, like, I'm gonna, just to be clear, there has been a clear history of like inappropriate punishments for children that should have been red flags for a long time. So there's multiple videos where she's seen withholding food from her children as punishment. One of which, there was a video in which she basically like her she put her daughter in charge of making her own lunch and remembering to bring it to school, and
Mhm.
her daughter forgot to, and her daughter's teacher called Ruby and was like, "Hey, she didn't have lunch. Can you come by and bring something or give her some lunch money?" And Ruby was like, "No, and don't give her anything either. She's in charge of doing this, so if she forgot, she can starve." Basically, is what she said. And mind you, her daughter was young. Like, this was not like a 16, 17-year old. This was a younger child.
Mhm.
I don't know the exact age, but she was not
Like
one of the oldest.
elementary, middle school age.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is a quote from an article, but at one point she said that her and her husband decided to not give her 2 youngest kids Christmas gifts after long patterns of selfishness. She proceeded with, We told them that this year they aren't going to be visited by Santa. We prepped them and let them know that on Christmas morning their four older siblings will be getting Christmas presents to open, and that they'll have the gift of love from their dad and I. Because we want them to have a really visceral experience that hits them. She then said that keeping them home from school and having them clean the house as punishment didn't work. Frankie also threatened to remove her son's privilege to eat dinner her for tickling his brother. So those are some examples of behavior before like years before anything happened. Years before anybody was like, maybe we should go check out her house, see what's
Yeah.
up. I do think that there was like one call to CPS, maybe. I think that at some point the oldest siblings stopped being involved with the house.
Mhm.
I The oldest one was a daughter, and I think she just went to go live separately, and then the oldest son went to go live with the dad. And I think the oldest daughter like made calls to CPS
Yeah.
and was like actively trying to get the kids out of the house, and nobody was doing anything. Her arrest came in August 2023 after one of her children escaped her partner in crime, Jody Hildebrandt's house, emancipated and scarred from ropes that had been tied around his wrists and ankles. Also, I am not going to give like explicit details of the abuse that happened because it's really bad. But Ruby kept a detailed journal of the abuse she inflicted, and it's bad because all you can see with these kids, you're seeing like one action of abuse of like obviously these children were tied down to something,
Mhm.
duct tape to something, and they haven't been given food. Um, but it was she's been doing this for like I think a few years, if not multiple months, um, and keeping track of it for some reason.
Yeah, that element of the keeping track of it to me is just like a whole level of sadism. It reminds me of like serial killers, serial rapists who will keep stuff to remember the
Yeah,
acts they've committed. So there's this level of her taking pleasure in what she's doing because otherwise, why would you record it? And that's like sickening. Like the act
yeah.
in itself is sickening, but I guess in my head, I'm like, well, maybe she's just a religious fanatic and thinks she has to do this. But clearly, she's taking sadistic
Well,
pleasure in it.
right. And like her actions were heavily driven by like intense religious beliefs.
Yeah.
Like even in the journal, she talks about how she thinks that her children have like demonic behavior. Um and that's like part of the reason she's doing what she's doing. But
She was Mormon,
yeah,
right?
fuck if I know. I,
You know what she
I
is?
have
A
no idea.
bitch.
She's a bitch. It's what she is, and she's in jail. So she lost custody of her children, and she has. I think she might still be on trial. But there's a lot of evidence against her. She's gonna be in jail for a minute. I hope. It better be a while.
Yeah.
Um. Oh, I'm still going.
But wait, there's
I still have shit to say. Um. There's not. There's not. That's it for Jody and Ruby. I don't have anything. They
it's interesting to me. I guess it shouldn't be interesting, but it's interesting that she was able to find two adults who were complicit at the very least or contributed to the abuse. Her husband or whatever he was, and
yeah.
then Jody Hildebrand.
Yeah. I think Jody Hildebrand was into it. I have no I think that of the two, I can see Ruby being both a little um sadistic and really I think she really fell into like the religious stuff. Um Jody, however, had no high stakes in this. She has no reason
Right.
to dislike these children for their behavior. Nothing about this relates to her in any way. Um, and I think she heavily influenced Ruby. So to me, I feel like Jody was a major contributor to this whole thing. Even though
Yeah.
Ruby was the one, like, actually, I think, mostly inflicting abuse, I don't think that Jody was, like, in the back of that whole situation. I think she was very much involved. They were neighbors.
Yeah. See, from what I've heard and read about the case, there was, what was her husband's name? Did you write it
I feel
down?
like it's Kevin.
Kevin, whatever. Her
I don't
husband.
know. We're going to call him Kevin.
Kevin, like, abuse still happened while Kevin was around,
Yeah,
but in comparison, after Kevin left, abuse escalated, and
a lot.
Jody being in the picture escalated it even more.
Yeah. And I think that, like, when it comes to Kevin, I
I just think it's funny we're committing to Kevin.
I don't care. I don't like any of these fucking people, including Kevin.
Yeah.
They can all suck my dick. But for me, Kevin is like your classic like I don't know what actions he took, but I'm not it's not giving he took many, you
Right.
know? It's giving I left the family cuz it wasn't going great and then he just took like he was just like, yeah, it is what it is. I I don't know, but I don't have trust in Kevin at
No,
all.
I'm not living for Kevin, but it is,
No.
you know, it's it's fucking crazy. It's shit like this is so hard to wrap your head around. I don't relate to wanting to get 6 children and abusing them. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you? I hope
I
she goes to jail forever.
Yeah, for life. No parole. I hate child abusers.
Um, so she was sentenced
Yeah.
up to 60 years in prison.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
That's good. I like that.
Uh, she'll have to serve at least 15 years and then be eligible for parole. But she might serve all of it. Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed she's in there for the rest of time.
Yeah. And child
Um,
abusers don't do well in prison,
no, they
they're not
don't.
treated well. So,
No. Yeah, I don't know. I think that I work with kids and I have always felt like very disgusted. I feel like any good person should feel disgusted. But I've just seen a lot of documentaries and a lot of personal like experiences with child abuse and it's just very I can't with them. I hate them. End of sentence. I'm going to move on.
we're moving on.
um so I did want to include like some signs of abuse. I feel like maybe not everyone is as aware of like what some signs could be. Um and I don't want to make assumptions about like people not doing enough when they're unaware of them. However, I will preface this by saying anybody who is a doctor, anybody who is a professional who works with children, um and anybody who what's uh is into
Mm,
psychology, all of them should already be aware of these signs. There's
yeah.
no reason why any doctor should be ignoring signs like this, or any psychologist or any teacher should be ignoring any signs of abuse.
Yeah.
They are required to know this information.
Yep.
So when we say that like people have failed these children, especially in regards to professionals, that's what we mean.
Yeah.
They have to know this stuff.
Yeah.
And if they're not doing anything about it, it's because they've actively chosen not to.
And I'm going to include some resources about, if you're a victim of child abuse, if you suspect somebody is a victim of child abuse, stuff like that in the show notes, just so you can have more accurate information than us two assholes
Yeah.
talking about it on the internet.
Yeah. I also I'm going to link the list of signs of child abuse just so that if you guys are more interested in knowing more about it, you have access to that cuz I'm going to talk about some of the signs, but like the list is too long for me to like say everything.
Yeah.
Um which is sad but true. Um so also I these signs are not specific to vlogger families or influencer families. I will say that I think any of these signs can show through with the videos that you see or the TV that you see. Um, I definitely feel like I've seen videos where I'm like, this child is obviously exhibiting some of these signs. Um, so that's how it's related. Yeah. So some behavioral cues you might notice if a child is like being abused would be like sleeping problems, insomnia, nightmares, that kind of stuff. Bedwetting, social withdrawal, decreased school performance, regressive behavior for age. The child seems afraid of parents, eating issues, sexualized behavior, and withdrawal of touch. And some symptoms of abuse and like physical signs of abuse, there's a lot of them. There's so many. Some of them are like not super obvious because it could be other things, if that makes sense. So, like things like headaches, difficulty using the bathroom, vomiting, excessive weight gain or weight loss, lack of hygiene, and physical marks of any kind that could have been inflicted by another person, such as bruising, burns, bite marks, malnutrition, and lack of care of medical needs.
Yeah, I think any sort of abuse, whether it be children or adults, we should all try to be on the lookout for the signs of. I think, we have a moral obligation to the people around us to try and look out for them and to try, if we're seeing something that doesn't look right, at least pay attention to it. And if you can, or if you think it's serious enough, telling somebody. There's nothing to be embarrassed about if you contact law enforcement or CPS, whatever, and you were wrong. Thank God. Thank God you were
Yeah.
fucking wrong. But like, the CDC classifies domestic abuse and child abuse as an epidemic because it's so prevalent in America.
And it's also like, to be clear, when you report this stuff, it is anonymous. You are not necessarily saying that, you're not stating to anybody that you're the one that did it. I feel like maybe that's a miscommunication or like a myth that people believe, but no one necessarily is going to know. And I definitely feel like if people are avoiding doing it because they feel like they're potentially ruining families or they'll get caught or they won't be treated the same way, who cares?
Oh, well.
First of all, first of all, at the end of the day, children's lives and other people's lives hold prevalence over your likability. Get the
Yeah.
fuck over yourself.
Yeah. Amen. Look inward, check your values, and just, I don't know, just try to be aware. People matter, lives matter. You know, if you can do something to stop trauma or to help someone after they've been traumatized, fucking do it. I don't know what to tell you. Even if you can't be anonymous, it doesn't matter. People deserve to know that there's people out there looking out for them as best they can. But anyway, moving on to these fuckheads, fucking family influencers. They are a bizarre. I'm a YouTube person. I love YouTube, love all different types of content on YouTube. Don't understand family vloggers. I don't get it. I don't understand
No,
it.
I don't either.
I think there's kind of like three elements of family vloggers that make them attractive and popular to people. There's also like a fourth mini one, just the reality TV element. We like seeing people doing crazy shit unedited, unedited, quote, quote. But I think a large portion of their audience is the conservative community. Often these families are the typical conservative heterosexual ideal: mom, dad, and at least 3 kids. Excuse me, usually more. Often these families have religious values, and if they don't have religious values, they will stress the importance of, quote, good behavior and how to get your kids to act right. I think conservative people often think that these things are under attack. You know, the idea of a straight family, a straight religious family having multiple kids is under attack by the government and by everybody. These values play well with an audience who believes that the ideal American family is under attack. There's just something like if you get in the comic section, you see a lot of this is what God wanted and stuff like that. And it's really interesting because in biblical times, the idea of a nuclear family like wasn't even a thing really. Family was a unit of like your extended family, family friends, people who worked in the house. It was not just mom, dad, and half a dozen to a dozen children.
Yeah.
Because at like two people raising multiple people is really hard, and I think we don't really fully understand that. Like kids need a whole system of people around them. But anyway, moving on. Another major audience for this type of content is actually children. When you think of the context of YouTube specifically, the majority of people who have time to watch daily videos and binge watch and watch things on repeat are going to be children. You know, most people work some sort of full time job and they just don't have time for this sort of thing. And YouTube's demographics will tell you that only 10% of their audience is 0 to 18 years of age. However, to get an account on YouTube, you have to be 13. So all these fucking 8-year-olds are out here lying.
There's a whole lot of kids out there that are not 13 to
Yeah.
be on YouTube.
And you can look at the comments of some of these family vloggers and be like, an
That's a
elementary
child.
child wrote that comment. Okay.
Yeah.
Good to know. I think something that is maybe a wholesome reason in this whole thing is a lot of children enjoy watching these family vloggers because their families are often so different from the family vloggers. These vloggers will present as polished and loving, and a lot of children don't have that. So it's a form of escapism. One of the articles I read was a person who watched family vloggers growing up, and she was kind of talking about that idea of, you know, she had a single parent, and her life looks so different from these honestly typically richer families who could go on vacation 2 to 3 times a year, who could go to theme parks on the weekend, who could sit down and have breakfast and dinner with their family. That was just something she didn't get in her own family. But often it is all lies and it comes at the cost of the children. But that doesn't matter. That's just one of the reasons people get into it. So this last one is a hard one to talk about, but I think we got to talk about it. A portion of these viewers watching these children, these family vloggers, are adults who are attracted to children, often called pedophiles.
You didn't have to say it like that. They don't have another name.
um, sorry. So You simply cannot ignore that videos of children receive a level of engagement that is higher than any other video on the platform. If the video features partially clothed children or children dancing or exercising, engagement will be significantly higher. Just one example, a woman in Brazil uploaded a innocent video of her 10-year-old daughter playing with a friend in the backyard pool. Her daughter was wearing some sort of two-piece swimsuit. A few days later, the video had 400,000 views. Um, Typically, her videos would get like, you know, 100, 100 views, something like that. So that's just something to think about if you're a parent thinking about wanting to film your children and put them out on the internet. I'm not saying it's your fault if a pedophile is attracted to your child. But what I'm saying is you're making it accessible.
Yeah, and there are some people on the internet who will exploit their children,
Right.
knowing damn well who are watching it should not be watching it.
There was a woman who was selling her daughter's, like, she was like 10 or something like that, uh, used dance leotards. Um,
That's disgusting.
yeah. And I think she got taken down on whatever platform she was on, but still. So just something to get upset about. But there are some just ethical concerns about having your child or any children in a public space like the internet. A huge one is your child's loss of privacy. Audrey, when you were 8 years old, would you have liked the whole fucking world to know all about your business?
No.
Would you be
No, I don't
happy
think so.
now as an adult knowing that, like, your life for, one of the families we talked about, they vlogged for 5 years pretty much every day. And let's say it started at 8, by the time you were 13, 8 to 13, that period of your life is documented in detail for millions of strangers.
Yeah. And like also I feel like it makes these children so hard to like exist in society. Cuz now everybody knows everything about you. You can't even go to school
Yeah.
and not have people like know this shit.
Yeah.
And it's also like, especially when kids are that young, parents have a tendency to just ignore the fact that like something's embarrassing or something's like not something you would want to be shared. It's just like, oh, they're a kid. It's funny. It's whatever. And they have to live with that.
Yeah.
The whole internet has seen that. They have
Th-
to live with that.
think about how many videos are like these parents are showing the punishments they give their children. That can be really embarrassing and humiliating, that all of your friends at school knew how you were punished and what you did. Like,
Yeah.
it's just, and this child cannot consent to being famous. It just is what it is. They don't understand the implications to it. Um, there's also, these children are under a intense amount of pressure. They're also working. Like, child labor laws do not apply to these children. These children are
Yeah.
working.
And that's one of the things we didn't really talk about the Duggar family at all, but one of the things that one of the kids talked about was like they got no money. Even when they were adults, they weren't getting money from
Hmm.
being on the show, but they still had no choice
Yeah.
because their dad had basically signed them away in a contract
Yep.
and wasn't required to give them any money, which is disgusting. What do you mean? Like, of course they like what?
Yeah.
I
It's just crazy. And there's just a pressure of your daily life being documented when you're a child and you have to act a certain way. Like, there's not a lot of freedom there. And there's a lot of emotional just damage of your life and your growth being documented in that way, and you had no choice in it. Something else that is interesting is in these cases where there is abuse, I think sometimes the bystander effect kind of comes into play. Like, these videos get millions of views, and I forget which case it was. It might have been Passengers 8, but there was only like 15 reports to CPS generated from what people saw on the internet, which 15 reports to CPS is a lot of reports. And thank you to those 15 people. However, when these
Yeah.
views are getting millions of views, that's not a lot of
Yeah.
people.
Yeah. That's disappointing.
So, this idea that, like, I guess everybody's watching it and this is okay, you know, um, I think that can take effect and can prevent these children from getting help sometimes. This one I think is interesting, and I think this one played into the prank video one that you talked about,
Mhm.
the performance effect. And we've talked about this in a Stanford prison experiment. Behavior was escalating. And one of the reasons why is because the people doing it knew that people were watching. So they were kind of like putting on a show, right?
Yeah.
So these parents are like, oh my God, people are watching. We got to do something even bigger and even crazier than the last thing we did. And that can escalate behavior into something like we saw with the pranksters, the old pranky McGee's, whatever their name was. It escalated into having your children slap each other.
Yeah.
um yeah, I mean, there's a lot of ethical concerns. I also think there's ethical concerns in having children involved in just movies and TV shows, but that's another conversation. But yeah, like loss of privacy, child labor, loss of identity. I feel like there's no time to explore who you are when you have to put on a show for people all the
Yeah.
time.
And like some kids really are kind of told to act a certain way, especially with vloggers.
Yeah.
Like they have this persona that they have to do and they can't change it.
Yep.
And it's like, how are they supposed to grow up and develop if they're told how to act all the time? It's not how children work.
And it's different than a child actor in some ways, cuz like a child actor can understand, oh, I'm pretending to be whatever. But like I feel like a family vlogger is like, there's this element of like you have to be the right Jimmy or whatever. It's
Yeah.
just bad. I think we should stop it. I think YouTube should have some child labor laws and rules about children being featured. Um,
No, that's an idea.
yeah, I just don't like it at all. But I also, there is an element of like if you're a parent and you're a creator and it's something you want to share with your child, I think there is an appropriate way to do that. I think first thing is wait till your child is older.
Yeah.
Um, and it's something that they know they want to be a part of. Like, maybe 14 in that age range, maybe even older. I just don't think I see a lot of videos of people just using their children for views, and it's upsetting.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
well,
we made it to the end, folks.
I didn't think we would make it.
You know, that that was a lot. I hope everybody's doing okay.
Well, guys, thank you for listening. If you want to stay in touch with us, we are on Instagram, Threads, TikTok, Reddit, email, and you'll just have to figure out what our file name is. Just
It's
figure it
all
out.
at Trauma and Triggers, and
Figure
then
it out, mama.
On Reddit we are Trauma and Triggers Pod.
What
Ignore Sabrina.
you want people to be able to find her social media?
Unfortunately, yes.
What, so they could see the dumb shit I post on Threads at 3:00 in the morning on a Saturday
Yes.
night?
Everybody please listen to Sabrina on Threads. That shit is hilarious. It's so funny. She says random shit all the time.
Yeah, it's weird. I'll have a thought and it's like something takes over my body and I'm clicking that app and I'm typing away and I have no choice. I don't know what we're going to talk about next week, but it's going to be great. So you better be there or be fucking square, losers. God, I
Yes.
hate you guys. All right. Love you so much.
Bye.
Bye. Oh my God.